Hello everyone, today we're making a winter hat out of old fabric with or without the pom-pom. So here is everything we're going to need for today. So I have here some fabric leftovers that I want to use, and it's as always fabric scissors, something to measure with, some pins. Here I have an additional hand gauge and fabric chalk. Also I have wax paper or pattern paper if you have it, then a pen so that we can draw on it as well. Or if you maybe have a pattern that's already for a winter hat, you can use that. Thread should be in the matching color to your fabric, and we're going to need a regular sewing needle. So our fabric leftovers here, the size should be at least 40 times 60 centimeters, so the more the better. So I have here some parts out of an old sweater. Actually, I did another video with the rest of it. So if you want to see how you can do a really nice sweater vest out of an old sweater, you can click on the link up here and check it out. And then last but not least, you can do a pom-pom on top, or you can just leave it out. So I have here two different kinds. So first we need to deal with the pattern. So if you have a finished one or one that you would like to print out, then you're already set. But if you want to make one, I'm going to show you how. So here is my wax paper that I'm going to use. And you can see here, I already have this shape done, but I wanted it a little bit longer and I just made sure that it fits my head size. So here are 14 centimeters in width, and what we're going to do is take four total pieces of the same thing and connect them then in the end. So that's going to be pretty much it. So in most cases you're going to have something that looks like this, and then on the bottom I want to just fold over so that I have it kind of bigger. So that's the section here. You can of course do it without it, and that way you're not going to have this little fold at the end, but you're going to need less fabric for it. So what we're going to do is cut out 4 pieces of this top section, and something that you can do as well. So this section on the bottom, you can cut out a little bit larger than that as well. So this top section that we're going to work on now is going to be connected with this bottom section that we have right here. So in this case, you see that I basically connected these, and I have here 11 centimeters, which means that I'm going to have 14 times 11 additionally. So I have here also the total length of 32 centimeters. So that means that we can transfer this onto our fabric, cut it out, and then when we fold it later, it's going to look like this. So I hope you can imagine it already on the hat itself, but if not, we're going to get to it in a minute. So the stitches are going to be visible from the inside, but not from the outside, and this is just due to the fact that I don't have enough fabric to do 2 layers. So an inside and an outside layer. So if you have enough fabric, you can actually do that and then have clean stitches hidden away. So now that I transferred my little pattern onto the fabric, so you see here the width is perfect. So as I said, I measured this according to my head size and what I want it to get in the end. You might need to adjust a little bit, but it should work just fine if you use my measurements. So another thing to think about is the room that the stitches are going to take. So this little pattern doesn't have those measurements, which means I'm going to need a little bit more on each side. So you see here that this was a sleeve, so I got rid of it for the other project, and I'm going to unstitch this, unfold it, and then I'm going to have a bigger piece of fabric that I can work with more easily. And then I can transfer this little pattern 2 times onto that sleeve and have enough room for the stitches as well. So that way we can actually do 2 pieces and not have to do an extra stitch in the middle. So you can of course do 4 pieces, but if you have enough room, then you can even do 2 pieces or even 3 or all 4, one next to another. So the more pieces you can fit on there, the more stitches you're gonna save. So I'm gonna transfer this now, and then I'll cut it out and I'll be back. Also, an important thing to remember, since this is knitted, we need to make sure that when we cut, we don't destroy the stitches. So we're just going to be careful with it. So now that we unstitch this or cut it open, we can transfer with our fabric chalk or anything else that you'd like to use, something that's washable so that you don't see the marks later. And yeah, make sure that you have at least 1 or 2 centimeters on each side for stitches. And here I'm going to try to fit in 2 of these shapes so that we can have 2 pieces. And then we're going to connect these 2 so that we don't have to do the stitch there, but can spare some time and energy. So here are the marks now. I hope you can see them nicely. And now what I did is just made sure that the sizes are big enough and that the lines are straight so that we later have a nice and symmetrical result. So what I'm going to do now is basically fold along this half line here, and then I'm going to just cut it out that way, because that way I can make sure that all or both halves are going to be the exact same shape. So shape and size is going to be the same. So I'm going to pin this to keep it in place, and then I'm going to cut it out. Now the next step is just to check if your pattern piece, so the wax paper shape, is the exact same as the shape of your fabric. So you can see here the fabric is pretty stretchy, which means that we seemingly have less than we need, but it should be just fine in the end. And yeah, now we can do the same thing with the other sleeve here, so the other 2 halves, and then we'll connect them together. So you can take this piece instead of the waxed paper, whichever you find easier, and we're basically going to repeat the exact same step. I'm going to fold this in half, I'm going to transfer the shape from my already existing piece, and I'm going to cut it out. Also remember to pin it together to keep it in place. So before I continue with putting everything together, I'm going to do an extra stitch on here. It's going to be a zigzag stitch just to make sure nothing frays later or falls apart. That way we're making sure that everything stays as it should be for a long time. So you see here what the edges look like now. The zigzag stitch did a really weird effect here. I think I kind of like it. But of course, in the end, when we do the stitches, they're going to be nice and neat, so that's not going to be visible at all. Now I'm going to iron over this, and then it's going to be a little bit flatter and easier to work with later. So that's an easy trick that you can do. Make sure that the iron is not too hot so that you don't burn your fabric. If you still have issues that these edges are not straight enough, so then in that case you can unstitch the whole thing and just do it at the very end. So now that we have this done, we can put these 2 together. So now the first step is to put the fabric pretty side on pretty side, one piece on top of the other, and then we can start with the edges here. So we would pin everything to keep it in place and then just do a stitch from the bottom all the way up. And this means that we're just doing the side stitches for now. So that means that this bottom section is going to stay open for now. So we're not going to do there any stitches except for maybe seaming stitches. And these sections are going to stay open for now. So we're just going all the way to the tips here, and that's where we're going to stop. So right here. And yeah, that's going to be our first step. And then the following step is going to be the middle and everything else. Now that we did the stitches on both outer edges, we can get on with the middle section. So that's what we're going to do next. For that, we're going to put the fabric the other way around. So we want the stitches in the middle here. So this is the stitch that we just did, and the one is going to be in the front. The one is, of course, going to be in the back, so you're not going to be able to see it. And yeah, it's here. So we want them aligned. You can also use your pins to make sure that that is aligned. So if you put everything where it should be, then if you look at the top, you should have like a little cross out of the open edge and the 2 stitches that we just did. So now what we're going to do is basically close up the open sections. So these are these 2 little ones, and those are going to be that's going to be the leftover stitch there. So these ones we already did on the sides, in the front and the back. So we're just going to start from the one edge and go all the way to the other. And yeah, that's going to be it. And this is now the top section of the hat, which is exactly what we want. So you see here the little cross on here, and that's exactly what we needed. And that way we know everything is closed up. And yeah, what you can do now is just iron over it a little bit, fold the one half, or the one side on the one side and the other in the other direction. That way you can even fold it nicely when you're not wearing it. But apart from that, we can turn it inside out and look on the outside if everything's looking nice. So you see here, we can't see the stitches, but they are very neat, and it looks almost like a store-bought hat, which is exactly the point. So yeah, now we have just a couple more things to do, and then we're completely done. So as I said, I wanted this bottom section to have kind of the fold over. So I have a little bit more fabric than I would need without it. So this is of course optional. You can skip this part, but I wanted to show you in case you want to do it. So you can of course fold it twice, and that way you don't even have to do anything and you're pretty much done. So you can see the stitch here on the outside if you decide to do that. It's not the prettiest version, but we can work on that. So here you see that I marked the spot where I want it to be folded. So we're going to turn it inside out again. And then what we're going to do is cut out these little bits on the outer side of the stitch, just to make sure that it's as little fabric as possible without ripping the stitch. So that way it's going to look really neat on the outside and it's not going to be visible. So now that we did that with both sides, this is what you can see. So it looks a lot better, and there is almost no leftover fabric on the outer side of the stitch, which is exactly what we want. So yeah, now that it's nice and neat, we want to deal with the fold section as well. So you can see here that this little section is actually a little bit crooked, and that's on purpose, just so it fits better with the upper section, so that it's not as visible when you turn it inside out. So yeah, this is where our mark is. And now we're basically gonna pin this section right here. And that way we have the stitch covered. So the stitch is on the inside, so to speak, and then we can do a stitch right there so that it's not weird later. So what we're gonna do is do our regular straight stitch over this section, and we just need to make sure that it's as close to the edge as possible. So here, just straight, and make sure that everything is nice and aligned so that you don't have a weird result later. So then you can turn it inside out and check it out, but this is our next step. So here I have a stitch on both of these sides, and that way everything looks nice and neat. So as I said, it's as close to the edge as I could possibly get, and that's what we wanted. So when you go to the outer section, when you turn it inside out, you see that it also looks nice and straight. So nothing weird going on there, exactly the way we wanted to. So now when you fold it over twice, you don't have to do a seaming stitch. So the seaming stitch would actually go here on this section, but since it's on the inside, you don't have to do it. And you can see here, it looks a little bit neater and it looks like a stitch that you wanted to do. So it's an extra stitch instead of just open fabric. So we can do a pom-pom on top, and there are multiple options what you can do here. I have just two as an example. And you can, of course, use the store-bought ones, or you can even make your own. And if you'd like to do that, I think I did a video on that as well that you can see here on top. And yeah, it's super easy. It takes just a couple of minutes, and then you can make your hat done. Or if you prefer the pom-pom, a hat without a pom-pom, of course, you can just leave it out. I'm also going to show you, in case you do want to do it, what we're going to do and how we're going to connect it. So here you see a double thread with a little bit thicker knot so that everything stays in place. And now I'm going to go through the middle of the pom-pom, and I'm going to go around twice, and then I'm going to move on to the hat. So I'm using the little cross on the very top, and then I'm going to go through the pom-pom and through the hat a couple of times just to make sure everything stays in place and doesn't fall off, even if it's windy outside. So here you can see our finished upcycled winter hat with a pom-pom on top. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to shoot us a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to our channel, and if you'd like, you can click on the notification bell. That way you'll get notified every time we post something new. So thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Have a great day. Bye!